You have the company of beer, right?
I do. I own a cerveceria with my wife. Yes.
Okay.
A brewery. A brewery, not a cerveceria.
What's your education background before you start this?
I have a bachelor's degree in physics, and that is, I don't remember what you call that. That's a 4-year college degree. And then I have a graduate master's degree in optical physics. And I also took a graduate course in entrepreneurship, how to start a company. Okay.
What's your previous work experience before starting the venture?
Well, I have been, so specifically to physics and engineering, I've worked for 2 different companies. They, as an engineer, and they were startup companies, so they were all pretty small as far as technology companies go. They were working on venture funding, and they were trying to develop to the point where they were becoming cash flow positive instead of cash flow negative as they were developing technologies. And between the 2 companies, they went different directions, but learned a lot about how to start a company and how things go. And then besides that, I've also had a lot of different jobs in different industries, from restaurants to construction to education, and it's just taught me a lot about how to be an entrepreneur with all these different skills.
Do you have any role models when growing up?
Growing up,
De este tipo, pero este también es medio entretenido.
I mean, of course, I had a lot of role models growing up. A lot of, my mom, my dad, all of the people. But I'm trying to think like specific role models for entrepreneurship. And I think the main role model I have isn't necessarily a person, but it's the concept of what was going on right when I graduated from college and started being an engineer. And that was in the 90s, okay? In the late 90s. So that was during the kind of time of the dot-com boom. That was during the time when Silicon Valley was taking off. And I was working for a little startup company in Portland, Oregon. But we were really closely connected with all the Silicon Valley people. And so the whole concept of making this new company, but then the way they were making companies, the things that they were doing compared to this hierarchy level that old companies were always, they had the lowly workers, and then they had the people in charge of the workers, and then the people in charge of that, and then it was all about hierarchy and who was more important and who was less important. And the idea of Silicon Valley was everybody is the same importance, and your value to the company is not how many years you've been there, is not whether your cousins or uncles are also in the family. Your value to that company is literally what work you're doing, what you are contributing to things, and that makes your value. The concept that the top floor of the building is not just the CEOs, and then the bottom floor of the building is the lower level people. The fact that the CEOs and the president are in an office on the same floor with the same size office as everybody else, because it's not, being a business is about making the business great. It's not about building up your own ego and being in a hierarchical system. So it was really about all these ideas, and then also
No la sabemos.
Constantly coming up with new ideas, constantly coming up with new ideas, constantly trying out new things, and not worrying if what you have is going to succeed. Mainly, I saw there's always going to be a limit to how far you can go when you're working for somebody else. But when you're creating your own company, there's no limit. The only limit is what you can do yourself. So it seemed like something I really wanted to do.
Okay. And when did you know you wanted to
Be,
be
to
entrepreneur?
be an entrepreneur. I would say it was a slow, gradual, and just more and more realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I'd say about 5 years ago, running the company I was running with, I really started talking with other friends about starting a new company, and that's when 5-10 years ago is when I started to realize I'd rather do this myself than work for somebody else.
Okay. Did you have parents who were entrepreneurial?
Nope. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a doctor, and neither one of them ever wanted to start a company on their own.
Did you write a business plan?
Yes, and it's constantly evolving business plan. And as far as a business plan written out in words and paragraphs written out with PowerPoint slides, we haven't been getting much external investment, so I haven't done that. So the main part of the business plan is financial models. And so we built a lot of financial models with all the possible choices that we had for the future and then what that would show for the finances of the company.
What sort of beliefs did you have? For example, about employees, partners?
Um, I We don't have any employees right now. As far as partners, my partner's my wife. So yeah, I don't know. My beliefs just basically we're still at the beginning, and so we're basically where we are. We're looking forward to making enough money so we can hire people.
What sort of resources did you have when you started the venture?
We saved up a decent amount of money ourselves, and then we got some money from our parents, and that's how we started it. Got our first investment to get this a little, and it wasn't a lot of investment, a really pretty small investment just to get things going. It's from so that's family. We've used up one of our 3Fs, friends, families, and fools. And those are the 3 people you should get your initial investment from. And because they'll be pretty forgiving when you're not making any money and you can't pay them back yet. And so we've taken care of family right now. We're looking for friends and fools to give us money. Friends, families, and fools. That's what you start with. And then once we've built, but the whole point of it was not trying to get a bunch of investment money. Investment money is a waste. Investment money is an easy way to lose your company. Okay? And so the goal was to try to build this company up as much as we possibly can, make it as big as possible with as little as possible outside investment, with as little as possible just family money, inheritance, kind of that kind of thing to get this going so that it's worth a lot of money. So then when we get external investment, they're only going to get 10% of our company for a big amount of money as opposed to 75% of our company for that same amount of money. Okay?
Did you feel prepared to start the venture at the time you started?
When I look back, I was prepared to start the venture. When I first started, I was pretty scared and I didn't think I was prepared. But every day I work at it, I get better at it. So I'm more and more prepared as the days go on.
How long was a typical work day and work week when you first start your venture?
It's really short right now. We so we can keep all of the money going into the venture, so we can keep all of the money made in the venture, growing the business. Both Carmen and I have jobs outside of the venture, and so because of that, we're not putting in really long hours. But we don't have enough money saved up that we could give 100% of the time work to the venture unless the venture started paying us money back. And so we're hoping to get there very soon.
How how have your goals and values changed since starting the venture?
Um, there's been a lot of reality that's happened since I started the venture, and I've seen that some of the hopes that I had for how much money we would be making right away, how fast we can grow. I had to slow that down a little bit so that we could build a nice level, and as opposed to just this nice sharp graph growing up really fast, I found that it's more you grow and you build a strong base, and then from that strong base you can make jumps jumps up in production, in distribution, in all that stuff.
Did you make assumptions when you first started that sequently proved to be wrong? Did you make assumptions when you first started out that sequently proved to be wrong?
Of course, definitely. We made and there was some of the things that were based on my understanding of business in the United States, and business in Mexico is different than that. There are some assumptions that I made, and as far as external partners that I was dealing with, that I've had to change because those partners are not who I thought they were, and those things. Basically, things are going pretty good right now, but then there's been some moments, mainly the toughest time that we've had came from the fact that we were trying to help somebody out so that they could grow their business by allowing them to pay us a little later as opposed to pay us right on time. And then they took large advantage of that, and they ended up owing us a lot of money, and they weren't paying us at all. And so we had to uh, be much more forceful with those people to get them to pay. And over time, it has gotten a lot better, and now we're at much better place.
What key mistakes did you make along the way?
Um, Same mistake everybody makes. Did a little too much on trust and should have done more work on building contracts with all the relationships right at the beginning so that everybody's responsibility in that relationship was written down on paper and signed by both parties so that as time went on, the agreements didn't keep changing. And as time went on, agreements kept changing. That wasn't bad. Key mistake, get everything in a contract and written on paper, okay?
What
Yep,
would
so,
you do differently if you had it all to do over again?
yep, specifically just writing down contracts, getting things like that, little details of uh, where I would have invested, where I would have put my money, but that's just details about the business.
What are your plans for the future in terms of the venture?
We are building up for the next few months. We're trying to solidify our position in the next few months, getting that base that I was talking about, getting a really strong base in the next 2 months so that in say 3 to 9 months, we can make that next big jump to a much higher level, a much bigger production and more space for storage and more sales. And so the next level.
What's your exit strategy, or do you not have one?
The exit strategy is a long ways away. It is not something that we're thinking about every day at all. But the exit strategy is building this. Basically, there's the soft exit strategy and then there's the hard exit strategy. The soft exit strategy is to grow this company to the point where the company is running itself. We've hired enough employees. The employees are doing the work. They're getting paid, and then we stop paying ourselves. We stop paying ourselves a salary, and we just treat the company as an investment that's growing on its own, and then we can work on the outside back in doing engineering consulting and other things, or hopefully make enough money. We're just on vacation. And the hard exit strategy in my business, which is the same in almost every brewing business, is to grow your brewery to the point where it is worth a lot of money, and then either sell the brewery entirely to some large investor, or start selling off the brewery as stock to a lot of investors. Either way, with stock, we would still end up as part owner of the brewery, but we would basically sell 75% of the brewery, and then that money would be ours, and we could retire on that, and then still be part owner and just get to vote on decisions instead of being in charge. And that's about it.
What key personal characteristics do you see in yourself that were especially critical for achieving success with a particular venture?
Learning. The number one, as I've looked back on my entire life and everything that I've done in my life, one of the main things I've noticed is everything I've ever done in my life, I'm always obsessed with learning. I always like to learn new stuff. I always like to learn about things, figure out more stuff. And so no matter how much schooling and education I have, I can take where I am right now and then think back of all this extra schooling and education I could do to get to where I am right now. And it couldn't have prepared me there's no way I could have taken classes and been prepared for this job. So the number one most important skill that I have is going into this job, working at this job, and then learning about the problems that keep coming up. Every time a problem comes up, I need to learn how to get around it. And so the amount that I know about this job right now versus 2 years ago, 3 years ago when we started it is huge. The amount I know about everything, the amount we know about all of this is really, really big, but it's all, you can't walk into an entrepreneurship, you can't walk into starting a company and think that all you have to do is, you already know everything you need to know and you just need to go to work every day and then it's going to make a lot of money. You really don't. There's so much you have no idea about. And so you just have to constantly be researching and learning about your company and how to make it better.
And finally, what advice, based on your experience, do you have for students interested in starting a venture today?
Number one advice for students starting an entrepreneurship venture today is get dirty. Okay? Is no matter what job you are starting, you have to get any attitude. If you're going into entrepreneurship, you're going to work ridiculously crazy hours. We don't put in 40 hours a week into our entrepreneurship job. But that's because we're working here at Tech de Monterrey and I'm doing consulting work on the side. Okay. So every Saturday and Sunday, I'm working at the brewery. I'm working there during the week. I put in 60 plus hours a week of work. It's just I've got 30 hours a week at Tech de Monterrey. Okay. So you have to get any attitude that you're going to become an entrepreneur because you want to be a jefe is completely wrong. If the reason that you want to start a company is to be a jefe, then you get your dad to buy you a company that already exists, that's just a simple coffee shop or a laundromat or something, and then you get to be a jefe and then you get to run it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to try to take an idea, turn that into a company, and make that company bigger, then you got to be prepared to take the scrub brush and clean the toilet, okay? Because in your job, there are going to be everything that needs to get done, and you have got to be able to do absolutely everything. And the only time you hire somebody to do something for you is because, number one, you don't know how to do it, and number two, because if you pay somebody else to do that, then you have more time to do other stuff, okay? But it's definitely not because you don't like cleaning toilets. Because if you don't like cleaning toilets, if you're like, look, no, I'm a princess and I don't scrub floors, okay? My last name is Peña and my family does not wash toilets. Then don't start a business because you can't start a business. Because unless you are willing to do the absolute lowest level job in your company at any time, because if you own a restaurant and you've hired somebody to clean the restaurant and that person doesn't show up on that day, you can't just open with a dirty restaurant. No, you are the one that has to go clean that restaurant now, okay? And so the advice is, if you're going to start a company, number one, try to last as long as you can without hiring anybody. Try to do as much work as you can on your own. Number two, any job you can't do yourself and you have to hire somebody to do it, make sure you're watching what that person does so that you can try to learn how to do it as best as possible yourself. So at least, at minimum, when you hire somebody to do it, you can watch what they do and know if they're doing a good or bad job, okay? And number three, anything you see that needs to get done, do it. Does not matter if what you're talking about is doing a high-level finance organization. We're talking about if you're doing engineering design using a software that only you know how to use, or if it means cleaning toilets. It doesn't matter what needs to get done. You just go do it, okay? And the amount of work you're going to have to do is a huge amount of work, but as far as work goes, it is one of the most thankful kind of works you're ever going to find, because everything you do, you're going to be able to see something that's been being created for the work you're doing. You're working for yourself. And so you will find that even though you're putting in 60 hours a week of work, or 80 or 100 hours a week of work, you're going to love the work so much that it's not work, it's fun. You know, it's more fun than going to see the latest Black Panther movie or whatever it is you do for fun right now.